9 years podcast. Mark Draper is my designated driver, providing excellent service as always. Is that the Mark Draper that played for Aston Villa? I'm not so sure.
The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, it's the 9 Years podcast, everybody. Nick Draper here with Stuart Deakins, Thursday, the 9th of November, 2017. 15 years to the day of Cheese Roll Day away at Merstham. What a great afternoon that was. On that day, incidentally, Charlton were playing Everton in the Premier League, yet today, or yesterday, or Monday night, we get drawn against them in the FA Cup, and the general reaction from our fan base is, yeah, just shows you how far we've come, really, I guess, although you could argue the catering has gone backwards since the CCL days. I know that Stu would agree. Someone who may or may not agree with that is Neil Ardley, who was actually playing alongside Neil Cox for Watford that day, back in 2002, in the old Division 1. But we don't know what he thinks about catering, because we don't know what he thinks about anything. He doesn't seem to be speaking to anyone at the moment. And that is the focus of this week's show. Stu's going to be talking through our favourite managerial interviews of all time, because, well, our manager isn't giving us anything, so I guess we have to look elsewhere. We're previewing this Sunday's televised game with Peterborough, as well as all the usual stuff and nonsense this week. But first, a review of the FA Cup first round and our win over Lincoln. Big question this week, Stu. It's fair to say that that was a 0-0 game, wasn't it? Except for a mistake from their centre-half that allowed Lar to score. That had 0-0 written all over it before, during and after.
Yeah, I think it did. I think you're right. Obviously, it was a great goal by Lar, and it sort of gave
That's a great finish by Lar.
Yeah, great finish, great goal. Yeah, it was a great finish. It was, not went through the ball, didn't he, and stuff like that. But I think it gave us something to hold on to, and that probably is the word, actually, because we did hold on to it as long as we could, and it became a little bit of a drag game. Lar picked up an injury, went off, and it followed a similar path as the Luton game did in a week in the Cup game, where we just literally had no attacking presence at all once Lar went off, and we haven't got an injury crisis, but we have a striker crisis, and 0-0 game. I think Lincoln, when they look back at that, and I know after the game, Danny Cowley was really disappointed that they lost that game, because they bossed it for quite a lot of time.
They bossed it in terms of territory and possession, and we surrendered that to them, really, for long spells. Well, probably about the last hour of the game, if we're being honest. Probably after Lar's injury, actually, as you mentioned there. To do that against Charlton, fair enough. Almost worked. Would have been a good point away from home. Still at home to Lincoln? Is that not just a tad depressing?
Yeah, but it follows a pattern, doesn't it? Because we did that against Plymouth. So if you remember, Lar's hat-trick against Rotherham gave us a little bit of a feel-good factor, and then we caved in against Plymouth by retreating back to a defensive tactic. Again, we have the home game against Lincoln, and you think 4-4-2, it looks like quite an attacking formation, get an injury, and we go back again into... I don't know if it's just through selection, through not enough bodies, but, we went through and put Jonathan Meads on to get some game time, but put him in a position that Ezri Carter could play in. So, again, was that because he can trust Jonathan Meads? Probably. But it just took away... Jonathan Meads is not a right-sided midfielder. For all the stuff he can do well, he's not that. And I know some people said they felt he was not really in the game, and I think that's fair, because that's not his position. But as per usual, we're asking people to play in positions that are not accustomed to them, and that's what you get, a very patchy performance where we're holding on against a League Two team.
There's a lot to unpick from what you said there. First of all, let's go back. Striker crisis. So, yes, we started with the top two, and as you say, once Lar got injured, we had no other options. Why didn't we think about chucking Jayden Antwi in, for example?
I believe, from what I hear, he's injured. But we don't know that.
That would be why.
I believe that, but we don't know that, because the information coming out of the club is sparse at the moment.
Very sparse. What about Alfie Egan then? Could he not have been played in a more advanced role, even if it's just slightly behind Cody McDonald, maybe?
Possibly. But then you are asking Alfie to come in with very little game time. So that one I probably would agree with Neil Hardy not to chuck him in. However, we could argue that he should have been given more game time possibly through the season. Our youngsters haven't really got that much game time. Anthony Hartigan now seems to be being rested to protect his legs. Make that what you will. Ejikaja puts on some really good performances, but can't get a consistent, not run of games. I don't expect him to play game in, game out. But you know what? I would expect him to get 20 minutes here, half an hour here, and especially if Lyle goes off. Yeah, let's try and change it a little bit so we keep the 4-4-2 where possible. You're saying to me he couldn't play through the middle? I reckon he could. I've seen him play it for the under-23s before, definitely. But it's all about that trust at the moment, isn't it? But we lost such an attacking impetus, and we were waiting. It felt like we were waiting for Lincoln to score because they were the only team that were going to score in that second half. The good thing is actually our defence is well drilled. With George Long at the back, he made one excellent save, and Darius wasn't going to give a kick to anybody. So we saw the game out, but it's a little bit dull, as we've said many times this season.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the 4-4-2 and Jonathan Meads filling in at right midfield. Now, yes, it was 4-4-2, very happy, 2 up top and all that, but if what we were told afterwards is true, Liam Trotter was ruled out because of an injury he's picked up. George Franken was unwell on the morning of the game, so I'm going to assume that perhaps George Franken was going to actually start that game at right wing, possibly. And maybe Harry Forrester wasn't going to play, or Cody McDonald wasn't going to play, something along those lines. I'm not sure which.
Yeah,
but the suggestion is that with that 4-4-2 was out of necessity rather than choice.
Yeah, probably was. Yeah, we are very limited, aren't we, on the information? The information coming out is just so quiet. We had a little bit of banter and said that we thought Liam Trott had been dropped. We don't know that for sure. What we make up, we make up little bits here, not make up things, but you sort of go and have a look. Was he dropped? He was injured. We wouldn't know that because there was nothing coming from the club to suggest that at all on the weekend. So, yeah, it looked like it probably was a 4-4-2 out of what we had left. But we haven't, you and I said this before, we haven't got an injury crisis. We've got a few knocks. We haven't got an injury crisis. There's a lot of clubs out there who've got injury crisis. We haven't. But we seem to be a little bit, it's dictating what formation we play at the moment.
That's because, although you might say we don't have an injury crisis, you've got 7 substitutes, 5 of which are academy prospects and very, very young, and none of which were ever likely to feature, were they? They weren't chosen at all. And in fact, for us to make one substitution out of necessity because Lyle got injured, and a second out of choice tactically to defend against the height that Lincoln had on their side, with 5 minutes to go when Paul Robinson comes on?
Yeah.
So we could have been looking at playing 85 minutes there with the same 11 players and not once looked to get an academy player on. And I know there was a development game in the week, and there might be an argument from somebody out there saying, well, those players were being kept so they could get game time there. But why have a bench with 5 young players on and at no stage think, do you know what? Let's use these players. I don't understand.
No, I agree with you. You feel at the moment that the team sort of not picks itself as such, but you sort of know push comes to shove, an experienced pro is going to get the nod over a youngster. And you know what? Yeah, you could argue that's normally the way it is, but we have some good kids. Andy Hartigan has done nothing wrong this year and actually has pushed himself into arguably a first-team place automatically. Ejikaja has done nothing wrong when he's come on, but seems to be pushed out here and there. So you have to wonder sometimes what motivation or how Neil Hardy is keeping the youngsters motivated, because they're probably, Anthony Hartigan's 17 years old, probably more than happy to be here in around the first team. But he's not stupid. He can see what's out there. He can see what he's up against and must feel that he can do something within there. As for Alfie Egan at the moment, you probably, I look at the moment, I wonder whether a loan deal's something that really would benefit Alfie, because all he's doing is training. I think he needs games desperately. Or otherwise it's just going to be a case of a forgotten man, which seems crazy after the good youth career he had and not really finding out whether he can make it in the first team.
Well, it's funny you should mention Alfie Egan and loan deals. I have heard it from 3 different people now that Alfie Egan is going on loan to Sutton imminently.
Never.
But yes, I have heard it from 3 separate people now. However, nothing's happened yet. Possibly looking to get game time in this Fulham game we had development side that he played in the week. So I can understand that. And the loan deal may still will happen, but this could also be nothing. It's coming from somewhere. This could be one of those things that was on and now is off, or it could be one of those things which is totally fabricated. And to see who might bite on it, shall we say?
Yeah, there's nothing is there at the moment. Yeah, I heard the same rumour. I'm playing around when I say about a loan deal. I heard the same rumour. I checked the Sun site. I checked the Sun forums. There's nothing. So it might just be a little bit of someone having a bit of a laugh. It doesn't seem far fetched though, because I think he does need game time.
It makes on every level. It makes perfect sense on every level. Yeah.
So you probably think that's probably something that's being talked about, and that's probably been leaked probably from a player or or a parent or something like that. That's how it tends to happen, doesn't it? But no, he needs games. Otherwise, what's the point? There's just no point. He's just going to sit on the bench getting splinters. And to be fair, he's not even doing that sometimes. He's actually sitting amongst us lot, isn't he, in the stands? So he needs to go and get some games, definitely.
Well, he's still getting splinters, though, because I don't know about you, but it wasn't another Saturday where, apart from the goal, I had nothing to get out of my seat for.
Yeah, boring Saturday. Yeah, good thing. We're quite lucky, we do the Facebook Live stuff, so we enjoy that, and that gives us a bit of a buzz as doing stuff that's live and spontaneous. But then, what we used to have a laugh, didn't we, and say that our breaks are very much watching football. Well, they're a bit boring at the moment, so desperately need our break time to be filled with a bit better performances on the pitch, or a bit more excitement. Maybe give them a chance. Maybe just play 4-2-4, and let's have cup end-to-end action. Let's do that.
Is it spontaneous, though? Is Facebook Live spontaneous?
Well, it is for me, because I don't know what the hell I'm going to say until I start.
Yeah, but you're going to say something. You're going to have some idea.
It's not whether it's going to make any sense.
Well, yeah, but we don't just rock up and think, hey, let's do a Facebook Live, and then just 30 seconds later, boom, off we go.
No, but we always think about something totally random when we're doing it.
I'd say unscripted, perhaps.
Yes, definitely unscripted.
Spontaneous. I know I'm nitpicking and being pedantic and all those sorts of things. Tell you what, though, and this is sidetracking us completely, there was a couple of wrestlers on BBC on Tuesday morning discussing wrestling, funnily enough, and they were asked the question, I can't remember the exact wording of the question, but the presenter used the word razzmatazz. And I thought, blimey, Stu's been writing the scripts for BBC Breakfast.
It's almost like the old bounce back ability coming back, isn't it? That sort of word. Do you remember was it Ian Dowie who created that word?
Ian Dowie, yes.
Yeah, these random words. Razzmatazz. Razzle dazzle.
Well, blimey. We're bringing these phrases back. We are at the height of pop culture.
Definitely.
Razzle dazzle. Right. Speaking of razzle dazzle, and I said that in a very camp way as well. You've already mentioned our defence. You've mentioned Darius Charles. And I've probably been sounding quite negative and quite down, which I don't mean to. We won the game. We're through to the next round. And there were many, many positives actually on Saturday as well, even if it wasn't the most entertaining. So what are the main positives for you?
Well,
aside from the fact we won the game.
Yeah, do you know what? The positives are, it's a result. I say this on Facebook Live at the end of the game. It's a result business. So, we've slaughtered... When I say slaughtered, that's a bit harsh, actually, Stu. We've been critical of first team and, Nuwadi and the manager team of not... It's a result business and sometimes being a little bit down and stuff, but we won the game. We got through to the next round and we got a home draw. It's not the greatest draw in the world, but it's a home draw. It's a winnable game. Other positives is Jimmy Abdu. I thought put a really good performance in against Lincoln, along with Darius Charles. But then, as we say, Darius Charles is a 7, 8 out of 10 performer every day. So that's not a surprise.
Every day?
Every day he plays a game of football.
All right.
Yeah. And I suppose the final positive that I'm starting to think about is it's getting closer to January the 1st. Hooray.
You going away or something?
No, but the transfer window opens.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, of course. Yes.
Yeah, see?
Well, yes, but there's no guarantee that we're actually going to do anything. We assume we're going to do something.
Don't spoil it. I'm really hopeful that the transfer window will open and our big present will be available on the 2nd of January, hopefully.
That's for sure. Any other names you want to check out for positives? In fact, you mentioned Jimmy Abdou there, Tom Sawers. Now,
Yeah.
Tom Sawers I was happy with Tom Sawers on Saturday because he just put a shift in. And to be fair, we have this conversation about the team this season and lack of entertainment and all these sorts of things and struggling down the front of the table. But I don't think there's ever been a question about application or commitment or attitude or anything like that. So can't really, well, Liam Trotter aside maybe. Tom Sawers, decent performance I thought on Saturday. But we're still, I think I had this conversation with you very early in the season when Tom Sawers was referred to as an attacking midfielder. Is that a fair description of what he's offering this team now or at any point in his time with us?
I think he can play a few roles. I think he can play the defensive holding, or he can play an attacking. I like Tom Sawers, which sometimes is not goes against the status quo a little bit, doesn't it? But he has got a decent ping on him. He can get a shot off. He's got a pass. I think sometimes he's sometimes a bit too defensive when he gets the ball. So our midfield, we don't seem to get the ball in any real attacking areas. Our midfielders pick the ball up in their own half a lot of the time. You never really see that we get our midfielders into not attacking positions, but a bit, just past the circle, the halfway line, and actually be able to push on and pick a pass and stuff. But I like Tom Sawers, and you're right. We can't argue about their application and the desire. It's just, for me, it's just too much one way. It's too much towards our own goal.
You say that praising Tom Sawers is perhaps a little bit against the status quo, but it's true. I mean, he does whatever you want, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does a job, doesn't he? He does a job. So whatever Nuardi wants him to do, he'll do. But to me, it's a bit too defensive for me. I just want our midfield to be a bit further up, a bit higher up the pitch, and influencing that end.
Well, somebody else we're talking about midfielders not getting the ball high up enough. That probably, in part, is due to the strikers and the fact that the ball does just not stick. It never sticks up front for us because of the target man that we were talking about on January the 1st and all that bloody blah. Cody McDonald then, causing a bit of debate, played the full 90 on Saturday. We're discussing whether or not he's been a good or a bad signing. Is he a bad signing? Not because he's a bad player or because he's not putting a shift in or anything like that. He's a bad signing because he's not fit. He's not the right fit for our system.
Yeah, I've been having interesting discussions with people on social media about this because it's a split camp. People are sometimes saying he's not scoring goals, he's not making the right runs, or he's not in the right areas of the box. And other people tend to, not my side of it, but my feeling on it is that we just don't play the football that gets anything out of Cody McDonald. And for he works hard. Saturday he works so hard on Saturday, but in the wrong, not the things that I want Cody McDonald to do. I don't want Cody McDonald running around the back four, chasing and closing down to make sure he can get an easy pass on. That's the basics for me. That's what I expect as a bare minimum from a player like that. I don't want to see Cody McDonald having a chance of getting more of an attacking play and get involved in attacking phases. But we don't. We might as well play one striker up front on Saturday. So is that Cody's fault? No, he was signed, and I'm sure when he signed, he didn't sign and go, Mr. Nuardi, I can play a lone striker, done it all my career, I'm sure I'll get you goals, I play well my back to goal and that sort of thing. I'm sure that's not what the conversation was. So you probably could say Cody McDonald's been let down this first part of the season because he hasn't been given the ammunition that he needs, and I imagine he's looking forward to the transfer window more than we are at the moment.
He's not going anywhere, is he? Oh, I see. Again, sorry. Okay. Oh, dear.
Well, you never know, do you? If I was a Cody McDonald, I'd be thinking, why not bother coming here? Because they're not playing to his strengths, are they, really? But I'm sure he'll be looking at transfer window thinking, please, can we just get some forwards in and maybe offload the midfielders or try and have a look at why we've got so many midfielders at the moment.
Why one of them, Anthony Hartigan, who could play some balls through that Cody might be able to run in and behind to, isn't ever playing. What was it? #find Hartigan, as we were spoken to on at full time on Facebook Live. Yeah, #find Hartigan. We're going to get this trend in because he needs to be playing games, and that seems an ideal opportunity.
We know where he is. We know where he is, don't we? Yeah, it's just quite easy to find him.
I never see him. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's on the pitch. I think his name's on the team sheet. I don't think he's there.
He's a very quiet, unassuming lad. He's not vocal or loud or anything, so he could quite easily come in on a match day, and you wouldn't notice him. Whereas if Lyle come in, you just get to see the hair and everything from miles, can't you? So he sort of blends into the background.
Elsewhere in the FA Cup on Saturday, Well, it wasn't a great week, or I should say weekend, was it, for League One sides? 8 have been knocked out. Another one will go when Northampton and Scunthorpe replay after a 0-0 draw. Bury and Peterborough also have replays next week, next Tuesday. So we could be, by the end of that, almost half League One has disappeared. And they are the strongest teams in the competition in the first round and second round. So not great. Who had the best result in the FA Cup for you this week?
Yeah, for me, Bournemouth had a good result, 2-1 against Blackpool. Watched the extended highlights of that, and Blackpool could have been out of sight at half time. Luke Garrard made a couple of subs and turned the game around, and they scored a late winner to really sort of knock the stuffing out of Blackpool. But yeah, I think that was a good result for Bournemouth.
I went for, bizarrely, there was lots of good non-league results, wasn't it? We had Maidstone and Oxford City and Boreham Wood, as you mentioned. But I'm actually going to pick Port Vale, who have been struggling at the bottom of League Two, and they turned Oxford United over on the Friday night, 2-0. So I thought, fair play. New manager in there, yeah, seems to be working his magic for them.
And what I was going to say, I don't know if you saw it, but the result that sort of went by the wayside. But Yeovil Town beating Southend at home 1-0.
Yeah, that went under the radar, didn't it?
It did. But that's Phil Brown's not going to be pleased about that, and nor his board, I don't think. So Yeovil Town are doing nothing this season, but they've to win 1-0 at home, yeah, it's not good at all for Southend.
No, and I can imagine when that draw came out, Southend fans were a bit like, really? It's not a great draw, is it? And they've lost it, so not a good weekend for them. Who had the worst result in your opinion then? Is that Southend?
There was a couple. No, I thought that was a good result. I don't think it's the worst. I think it's a good result for Yeovil in that sort of turning around. But obviously, Colchester losing at home to Oxford City, that's a shocking one, isn't it? But I also thought Sutton losing at Cambridge was a bad result, just for the fact that Sutton had 10 men to play against for a considerable time. That's a winnable game. And then I also thought Pompey losing at Luton. That's a bad result. That's a bad result for Pompey. That's
not a bad result. That's like Luton are a bigger club and a better team.
But they're not. Yeah. I just think if you look at the chances that Pompey had, they will be kicking themselves. They didn't at least get them back to Fratton Park. So that's where I'm putting it. It's a bad result for Pompey because they had a very much a lion's share of that game.
Do you see the goal though?
I did.
What a great goal!
Not bad. I see a chance that Pompey missed. They missed a hatful of chances.
No, they didn't. They missed about 2. Anyway, they should do. They're in the League One club. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's all about the result at the end of the day. And Luton won.
It's a result business.
Yeah, never mind Portsmouth.
What about you?
Northampton for me, because 0-0 at home to Scunthorpe, a draw, a replay. It's a rubbish draw. Any time you get drawn against a team in your own division, it's a rubbish draw. And they have to do it all again and have a long midweek trip up to Scunthorpe as well now. So that's not going to help them in their fight against relegation, is it? So yeah, that for me was the worst result.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout.
Who's your hero of the week?
Joe, I've gone for Cody McDonald because I think
after all that.
The reason I say that is I think it'd be very easy for Cody to sulk. Very easy, do you know what I mean? Brought in to do something totally different to what you were sold in the summer. Supposedly, I hope it wasn't sold a low man role. That hasn't sold. Good professional, leads by example, does a job that Neil Hardy's asked him to do, even though it's not a job that he wants to do or showcases his ability. So, Cody's my hero for this week.
Villain of the week? Oh, my hero is Lyle. He scored the winning goal. There we go. Who is your villain?
My villain is the BT Sports and BBC because they had a rubbish selection of games this week in the first round. And where is the highlights? There's very few highlights on the weekend. BT Sports had a couple. They had one extended game.
The BBC had an hour and a half of highlights on Sunday.
Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday at 5:30. Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
But it was watch on 5:30. By then, you see them all on like little roundups and stuff like that. Chuck it on Saturday night. Who cares about the Premiership? Chuck them on the FA Cup first round. That's why it's losing its appeal. 5:30 on a Sunday. Weekend's gone by then.
They showed all the Sunday games as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing, they showed all the Sundays games, which I'd already watched because I'd watched the 2 o'clock
that's
live thing. See, I don't understand why they show the 2 o'clock the live games and then they show match of day highlights on stuff that they've just showed at 2 o'clock. It's crazy.
I agree with you on that point, yeah. I didn't see the point of that. But
And also, it wasn't as enjoyable, actually. The games they did pick in the end weren't that great. There was no real drama in the first round. I know you can't blame the BBC and BT for that, but it was a bit of a poor selection of games, really.
I can't really say on paper, though, and hindsight being 2020, I can't really think of a game. I can't really argue with any of their choices, anyway. Let's put it that way. Non-league teams away from home to league teams never really get on TV, do they? There's less chance of an upset.
We should be on TV, I
reckon. Every time there's a cup draw, it doesn't matter who we get. Somebody somewhere will pipe up. Oh, that's got a chance of being on TV. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. TV. Wimbledon versus Lincoln was never going to be on TV.
The Cup Heroes of last year?
So?
Trust me, if anyone watching that game would never come anywhere near us again and watch us on TV. There's Peterborough over on the weekend on Sky. Give us a break. I'll go over to watching.
My villain this week, well, it's pretty much the Premier League. You've mentioned the Premier League and Match of the Day taking precedence over the FA Cup. I'm going to mention the top 6 clubs, the so-called top 6 clubs. I can't see that changing anytime soon. For the amount of England players that have withdrawn from this week's friendly. So Gareth Southgate's big plan to warm up for the World Cup is not going to do so well because we've got 2 prestige friendlies without many of our best players. Harry Kane's withdrawn, Raheem Sterling's withdrawn, Jordan Henderson's withdrawn. Okay, Fabian Delph's withdrawn. No one cares about that. But yeah, they're all going to be fine and fit and healthy for when the Premiership returns in a couple of weeks, or the Premier League, or whatever you want to call it. So, disappointing.
Who are we playing? I've not even seen anything advertised. Are we playing anyone decent?
Not really. Germany, I don't know if you've heard of them.
They're boring.
Brazil, I don't know.
Brazil. Yeah. Do you know what? It makes you laugh, doesn't it, nowadays? Harry Kane, there's nothing wrong with him. Everyone knows that. But why? You have to wonder sometimes the FA, they've got... I know there's rules around that they should report for training, and then the England doctor's got to say that they're not fit for whatever it is, stuff like that. But it happens all the time, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? International football now is becoming second rate. I think that's why I got a bit bored of it, because you never get the first team out, and then when you do get to the World Cup, they've hardly played any real proper football with each other, and we get knocked out by someone rubbish. You just feel that we said it before, we could talk about it for ages, but the Premier League very much dictate what happens in English football, and the FA are powerless to do anything about it.
Yes, but I don't know if FIFA and UEFA help themselves sometimes, because I know we've got the playoffs that they need to play because of qualification, but I'm sure if they actually sat down and figured out how to change or update the qualification competition, you wouldn't need a playoff system. There must be a way to do it, and you wouldn't need... This is the third time, September, October, November, there are internationals. It just breaks up the flow of everyone's season, I think, and gets in the way. So if they could organise themselves a bit better, it might be different.
You're listening to These Fine Gentlemen and their new song, One Horse Town. Available now on iTunes and Spotify.
Okay, so Neil Ardy's not been speaking in the press, has he? Not speaking to anyone, in fact. So we don't know what's going on. We have no idea what his thought process is. His programme notes for the Lincoln game did not discuss current affairs, shall we say, in any way, shape or form. They concentrate solely on his history of the FA Cup, so it does seem to be a little bit of a radio silence from him at the present time. We didn't mention this because we spoke about it a lot on social media over the last week, and clearly we are now going to talk about managerial interviews now, so we thought we'd save it to this point. But he didn't applaud the fans after the Lincoln game. He took off straight afterwards, didn't he, looking very, very unhappy. Is there other things afoot here, or is he just a little bit annoyed with some of the criticism that's been coming his way? Which, if we're being honest, the only way he'd know about that criticism is if he was reading social media, because it's not being displayed at the ground, is it?
No, it's just a bit of a sorry. It's just a bit of a sorry state at the moment, isn't it? You know, some people are saying, well, with the criticism he had, should he be applauding the fans? But then, you're right, you say, where's he find this out? Because there's been a little bit of happiness at Kings Meadow, but that's made due to catering. Do you know what I mean? It's not just due to a dodgy burger. It's not due to him. But I think it's a sorry state if he's taken out the social media on everybody in the ground, because I think on a match day we can safely say we were all behind him, and we want him to succeed. I don't think there's many people out there that actually want him to fail. If they do, then that's a bit sad. But we want him to succeed, and you know, I think if he didn't always sort of applaud the crowd and stuff like that, then, there's some managers that manage teams and they just don't interact with fans at all, and they just very much like journeyman and go around from club to club. But, we're very much used to Neil Ardley acknowledging the fans, and it was a little bit of a sorry state. And obviously when you then look at the fact that he's done hardly any interviews at all recently, you do sort of sit there and go, well, why is he hiding? Or, what's happening? Because we're getting nothing out of the club.
Well, we can only speculate, and we don't really want to do that. It's not particularly fair. I will say, okay, the atmosphere on Saturday wasn't great from us. It was never going to be. We're at home to a lower division team, and we scored early. There was nothing really to get ourselves going, was there? And the week before at Charlton, for whatever Carl Robinson wants to say about our fans, our support was fantastic, including singing Neil Ardley's name regularly throughout. So I wonder if there are other things at play here behind the scenes that we're not, what's the word I'm looking for? That we are not privy to.
Yeah.
And maybe they will come out later, but it is a bit random. But anyway, because of this silence from Neil Ardley, and we hope that there'll be some words from him prior to the Peterborough game on the weekend. I'm guessing Sky will insist that he speaks to them. I don't know, of course. I'm sure there are actually fines and things in place, probably if he doesn't, more than likely. I know they do in the Premier League, but anyway, it's besides the point. Stu, you've been looking at some of your favourite managerial interviews from around the footballing world in the history of time, because we want to hear from a manager, and you thought you'd look at what some other managers sometimes say in their post-match or pre-match interviews.
Yeah, so I obviously, I always think pre-match interviews and after-match interviews are always hilarious, because you get the people that say very little, or you get some that just love the game, and that they always say that interview straight after a game is the worst one, because everyone's emotions are running high, and sometimes they just come out and say things they shouldn't say. So I enjoy watching the after-match interviews, and there's a few of my favourites. Some in the game, some not in the game anymore. Actually, no, they're all in the game. Actually, the ones I've got. But yeah, so I thought we'd go through and pick out some of our more humorous interviews that have been had over the years. So,
who is your first pick?
My favourite is by a mile is Ian Holloway. Absolutely can't. The bloke's. It makes me chuckle. I got a picture with him for the home leg for the playoff for Accrington. He just arrived at the ground. And it's one of my favourite pictures, because I just think the bloke's an absolute funny bloke. So this clip that you're about to hear is one of my favourite, and there was quite a few that I could have picked, but this one made me laugh about the reference, and it's a reference to not playing. Well, it could be, we could probably relate to it. It's not playing so well, but you've done all right, and you got a bit of a result at the end of it, and it's just how he referenced it to that makes me absolutely chuckle.
We'll always get sides having a go and then come back and score 2 good goals after.
Yeah, I have said it before, a win's a win. And to put it in gentleman's terms, if you go out on a night and you're looking for a young lady and you pull one, that's it. Some weeks they're good looking and some weeks they're not the best. And our performance today would have been not the best looking bird, but at least we'd have gone home in a taxi with her. If that makes any sense,
None at all, but it sounds great.
It certainly does. She wasn't the best looking lady we've ended up taking home, but she was very pleasant, very nice, and thanks very much, let's have a coffee.
How long ago was that now? That must be 10 years back now, sure.
Easy, he was at QPR the first time. He looks good. I think it was just the way that, he sort of said, we didn't pull the best looking bird. Actually, do you know what? We've done all right. Took her home for a coffee. Ian Holloway is very much a gentleman in terms of he wouldn't be derogatory towards the ladies or anything like that. But it was with Ian Holloway. You just there's another one as well. If you ever get a chance to go on YouTube, it's not an after match. It's actually before match. And I don't know if you remember years ago when he was at Plymouth, they had a friendly with Real Madrid.
Oh yeah.
And they basically go, "What's your reaction?" And as quick as anything, he falls off his seat.
Yeah.
And the next minute, it's just the press himself all laughing at each other, unable to contain their. And I think, do you know what? I suppose I relate. I like that sort of manager, because Ian Holloway on the touchline demands everything out of his team, but you can also feel he's a very good manager. And you want to be able to relate. And I've got a few QPR friends, and they love Ian Holloway, and they were so glad when he come back. And I just think the laughter sort of side of it. That's what I want to see. Neil Hardy is more than capable. He's not as full flowing as Ian Holloway, but just have a bit of enjoy. So, enjoy the job and put a little bit of laughter on it. So, yeah, Ian Holloway is one of my favourites.
And I think we're trying to turn this into a Neil Hardy thing. Neil Hardy used to be very upbeat and positive in his interviews, and I just think it's perhaps over the last year or so where he's become a little bit more withdrawn. Yeah,
it's what we miss. It's what we want to go back to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ian Holloway had loads, though. I mean, we talked about falling off the chair. There were so many at the time. He used to be almost every week he'd be saying something ridiculous and coming up with something. He's certainly calmed that down, I think. Certainly haven't heard such things since he's been back at QPR. I mean, I'm not saying he's turned into Arsene Wenger, but you know what I mean.
And also don't forget, he came out with one of the best one-liners when he was in the studios at Accrington for our playoff semi-final second leg.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely had Scott Minto lost for words, when he said about there's a rumour that he ate his child or something like that, wasn't it, with Bayo?
Yes.
And just dropped it in with a one-liner, and Scott Minto was just done for. And yeah, I suppose we look back at it, laughing our heads off because, of course, it relates to a great bit of history in our time. But yeah, you can imagine, they always say sometimes you're going to go on a desert island with somebody who you take. I think I'll take him along for just pure comedy value. I can imagine he's an absolute funny person to be around.
You heard it here first on the 9 Years podcast. If Stu could take anybody to a desert island with him, he wouldn't take his wife. No. He wouldn't take any of his family or any famous female celebrities. No, he would take Ian Holloway.
Yeah, it'd keep you laughing, wouldn't it? Keep your spirits up.
As long as that's the only thing he's keeping up to. Right. So, who's your next pick?
So my next pick is Jurgen Klopp.
Okay.
The German makes me laugh my head off. He's very much embraced England, and he's gone to Liverpool, so you've got a German going to Liverpool trying to understand the dialect from that area. But there's one interview that I loved when he was being interviewed in a tea room at Exeter in the FA Cup. And I think the thing I loved about it was the fact that he didn't come across as a big-time Charlie. So I could just imagine sometimes Jose Mourinho being in that small tea cupboard with two ladies who are waiting for a cup of tea. But just generally laughed it off and didn't come across as anyone out of his sort of, I don't know, out of his cage or anything. He wasn't. He just, I think he embraced what the FA Cup was about, what going to lower league grounds was about. And he just always seems to be fun, doesn't he? And I'm very much, I like a manager who's expressive on a touchline. I know we used to laugh at Steve Evans and people like that, but Klopp is just great entertainment. And when the team's performing well, you've got your biggest cheerleader on the touchline, and you can see why he gets players playing for him and battling against all odds.
Cool. Should we have a listen to that one?
Let's go for it.
Have you ever done a pre-match interview in a tea room before, Jurgen?
For sure. You cannot imagine where I played by myself, and it's nice. It's everything here what you need. I was looking out for my cup, but there's no cup with my name. I'm sorry.
There might be an FA Cup at the end of the season.
And I hope it's coffee inside here. Then I would.
Sue and Trace are in charge.
I would like to have a coffee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the game.
Very good, very good. And who else did you pick out then?
Yeah, so this one again. This is. I don't really like the Scottish people. I know it sounds really rude, doesn't it? But
Brilliant. You don't like the Scottish people?
No, I've got family that are Scottish, but they can be a bit dry sometimes and try to understand anything they say. But the clip you're about to hear is a few examples of Gordon Strachan when he was at Southampton. And he went through a stage of just giving the most sarcastic one-liners that you would ever hear. But also, when we start this one, it's basically about a mobile phone that's ringing and about professionalism in the job, and how he basically has a reporter stuck for words. But yeah, very dry, very sarcastic, but my sort of humour just about the Scottish tones.
Turn things around here. No.
You could ask stupid questions, I'll give you stupid answers.
With the chances that could be for you, that phone. There you go. Are you all right now? Good. Your missus looking for you. Okay. Oh, I'm not doing it again. No. Oh, no. Just pick it up again. No. If you can't get your plate, forget it.
Same question, but I mean, West Ham.
No, that's the same question. The guy's phone went off there. Bad professional. I get to stick if my job's not done. So we can forget that question. Next one.
It's 1-0. Do you always feel there's a chance of getting back in it?
Yes. And when it's 5-0, I always feel there's no chance of getting back in it. Thank you for stating the obvious. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Well, Gordon, all good things had to come to an end, and bang goes your unbeaten record this season. Can you take it?
No, I'm just going to crumble into a wreck, go home, become an alcoholic, and maybe throw myself off a bridge. We were just boring, to be honest with you. Totally and utterly bored.
What do you put that down to?
Boring football.
I do love that one. This is the one I always remember of all of those, which was when he was just like, "You must be delighted with that result." And Gordon Strachan's like, "Well, yeah, you can read me like a book." It's like, why do they? But do you know what? They still do this. Interviewers, you'd have thought they'd have looked at that and stopped with these ridiculous questions. But no, we get it all the time. You've scored a hat-trick. How are you feeling? Well, a little bit rubbish, to be honest with you. I didn't enjoy scoring 3 goals tonight and winning the game whatsoever. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think he was being sarcastic, and I don't think he ever come across as being rude. You know, about a mobile phone, there's a similar thing with Roy Keane when he was at Ipswich when a mobile phone went off, and he gave the person the most unbelievable stare, and I think the reporter went to pot. So there are a couple of ways of challenging a mobile phone ringing in a working environment. As I suppose at my place when the phone rings, you shouldn't really answer the phone. Not everyone calls me, thankfully.
Don't you work in a call centre?
I don't do the phone work. I manage the people on the phones.
All right, fair enough. So they've got to answer the phone, surely.
Yeah, they've got to answer the phones. But yeah, there's two ways. If you go onto YouTube, you'll see the Roy Keane one, which is totally different and very direct and quite intimidating. But yeah, I do miss Gordon Strachan. He's not as funny now that he's a Scotland national coach. Doesn't seem to come out with any sarcastic responses anymore. But back in when he was at Southampton, there's also one. There's a bit where they sort of said, how do you feel about negativity around the place and stuff like that? How do you deal with it? And he basically turns it around and goes, "Oh, okay, until you come along, you bring up everything that goes wrong in this club." And he just sort of naturally spins it straight back to the reporter that he's the negative one. And yeah, I like managers have a bit of a personality. So yeah, they're my 3 that I thought we'd pick.
Very good. Were there any honourable mentions? I just thought, going through some of my memories, of course, we'd all talk about the famous Kevin Keegan one and the ref Benitez. That's a fact, that legendary interview. Do you know what? Alex Ferguson, though, what a master. So good. I mean, lots of people talk about tactically, was he the most switched on? No, I know he hates being told that tactically he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best. He was a great motivator, basically. Got very good players playing attacking football.
Yeah,
but his mind games were so switched on.
He was, yeah. And, if you look at Ferguson, he had some good number twos. Like, don't forget, Steve McClaren was his number two for years, and by all accounts, was the genius behind a lot of those teams tactically. It was just when McClaren went and be a boss on his own that it failed. But I think he surrounded himself with good number twos and switched them around quite a bit. There's actually one when I was looking through all the actual interviews. There was actually one he did. When they were playing Barcelona in the European Cup final, Champions League Cup final, and the funniest question was, if you could pick a player from Barcelona team, who would you pick? And Alex Ferguson almost bought a laugh, almost laughed, almost actually looked like he enjoyed the question, and then in his dry Scottish wit said Mascherano. But
yeah. I'm not making any jokes about Neil Lardley at this point.
No, but it was just. Don't get me wrong, I can imagine interviewing somebody as like Sir Alex Ferguson can be quite intimidating, but if you set up with a question with, you've got the best player in the world at that time, Messi, and you ask a question like that, then yeah, even he's going to get a smile. But I think it's we obviously know that Benitez, when he cracked up, didn't he, when he started going through about stats and fact. Sorry, not stats, fact. He did, didn't he?
It's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
But I remember. I don't think that was spontaneous, because I remember there was. If you ever watched Sky Sports, and Jamie Carragher and Phil Neville, they recently did their sofa. They sit on I don't know what it's called now. They sit on a sofa, don't they, discussing old games and stuff.
Soccer box.
That's it, soccer box. And actually, Gary Neville asked Jamie Carragher about that. And Jamie Carragher was honest and said, Benitez had that plan. That wasn't spontaneous. He wanted to say it. And I think there was a few people who said no, don't do that. That's an error. And yeah, in the end, it was, wasn't it? He just the mind games totally killed him.
It was very considered, wasn't it? That speech, if I remember correctly, the way he delivered everything, it certainly wasn't off the cuff. It was considered, but yeah, you're right. It never. Don't engage Alex Ferguson in mind games. It's never going to work. But talking about games, guess what?
Oh, we've got another one. Yes,
it's time for everybody's favourite 9 Years podcast weekly game. Abdu, are you? And yes, that is the music of Alexa Bliss, who was in fine form at the Wembley Arena last Friday when I saw her. And my seat was just about 50 yards away from her, so I wasn't breaking any rules of my restraining order, which was very, very handy indeed. Anyway, this week, Jimmy Abdu, well, he's gone to visit an ex-player, obviously, as he always does, but at first he wasn't sure if he was going to see an ex-player of ours or he was going to the offices of The Sun newspaper.
That's very random. Offices of The Sun newspaper. I don't even know where the offices are nowadays.
Not sure. It doesn't. Neither do I. It doesn't have any bearing on it, though.
I do not like your first. I think sometimes I could just bypass round one and be a lot better for it. I haven't got a clue.
No. Okay. Well, the second clue might narrow it down a little bit. With 131 appearances for the Dons, but no goals, this player was considered a very safe pair of hands.
138.
131. Just imagine
131.
a bus route from Kingston to Tooting.
Yeah, I'd rather not. Oh, crikey, this could be any era then, couldn't it? So, let's think. Goalkeepers in the AFC period would have been Seb. I don't want to go. I think Seeger's played more than 131 games easily. So Neil Sullivan. Ooh, so 131 games would be 4 seasons. I'll go for Seb Brown.
Okay. Well, let's see what you think of the third clue. Whether or not you're going to keep with Seb Brown. In his career, this player played for some very big clubs, including Ipswich Town, Sunderland, and the biggest of them all, Luton Town.
He's a goalkeeper.
I didn't say that. But
you throw me on a...
No, hold on. It is a goalkeeper.
Ipswich Town... What else did you say?
Ipswich Town, Sunderland, and Luton Town.
It wasn't that good if he's played for Luton Town, was he?
He played for us as well.
Yeah, but anyone could get a game for us at some point, couldn't they? Crikey, who played for...
Brilliant. I can't wait till the next time we interview the next player. All right, Stu, by the way, he thinks anyone could have played for us. So, thanks, Kedwell. Cheers for that. Nice one, mate. Bayo back in Fenwar? Yeah, could have been anyone.
No, don't tell Bayo. Even though we may be seeing Bayo soon, might we? If there's a rumour going around, we might have a book launch.
There's a rumour about him going on loan in January, isn't there?
Yeah, I think we started that, didn't we?
Yeah, just now.
Ipswich, Luton, in goal. Oh, I can't think. 1 second. Neil Sullivan. What goalkeepers did we have? Oh, this is going to bug me. He stunts me. I can't think of anyone that played for those teams.
Are you going to rely on the anagram clue here?
That worries me. I'm going to rely on an anagram.
Okay, well.
Go on.
I'm going to say this twice. Because to take it literally, the anagram is Dank Elvis IV. But I like to consider it as Dank Elvis 4. Because of Roman numerals, you see.
I must be forgetting a really obvious goalkeeper.
I think you are, but then this is a former Wimbledon and Luton Town player, so of course I would. Will it help you to say that he also played in the same team as another former Wimbledon and Luton Town player whilst with us?
No, probably not.
Who's the most famous ex-Wimbledon and Luton Town player we know?
Rick Harford.
Oh, I've got second most famous then.
I'm normally strong on my goalkeepers as well. This is really concerning me. I'm really struggling on goalkeepers. Nah, I think it just must be. I think it must be a mind block. No, I don't know.
Okay, right. There's the buzzer, so let's get that out of the way. Okay, first of all, who else played for both us and Luton whose name isn't Mick Harford?
I don't know. James Shea?
Oh, no, a striker.
A striker?
This is your blondest of blonde moments.
I know. I feel really under pressure now.
Oh, dear.
Luton striker? He played for both. Do we have many players that actually play for both? It's not really somewhere you really want to go, is it?
Well, I can think
John
of.
Hartson.
There we go. Right, he played in the same team as John Hartson.
Yeah, but he didn't really play for Luton, did he?
Who?
He's more famous for Arsenal, wasn't he? West Ham and all
he
those
started at Luton.
Yeah, but that was just a minor detail.
Oh, anyway, all right. So anyway, we're still not closer to who the actual player is this week.
Was it at that time? Was it?
He played at Wimbledon with John Hartson.
So it's not Neil Sullivan, because he didn't go there.
No.
Who was the goalkeeper?
People have stopped listening. Some people have stopped living.
Oh my days! I'm having an absolute blonde moment.
Well, at least you've got hair.
Yeah.
Dank Elvis 4 or IV. It is, in fact. I really wish we did this live sometime, so I could just hand the microphone to some random person in the crowd. You know what they do on Countdown when they do the conundrum? Anyone in the crowd get it? There you go, Mavis from Horsham. What was it? Kelvin Davis.
Oh no!
Dear me!
I totally forgot about Kelvin.
That's like 8 minutes of my life I will never get back.
I totally forgot about Kelvin.
Oh, well, clearly we're well aware.
Oh my days! That's really worried me.
Oh dear!
There was a mind block from obviously Seegers, Sullivan. Then there was someone else that I won't mention. And I think that's where my mind block was going, because I was like, "Well, it ain't him," because you wouldn't be stupid enough to mention him. I forgot the person who went. Oh my days!
Who are you thinking about?
Well, certain one that's a goalkeeping coach somewhere up in Buckinghamshire.
Oh, we'd long gone by that time.
Yeah, I know, but that's where my memory block was going, because I didn't want to mention him, because I knew you wouldn't put him. I forgot about Kelvin.
Do you know that if said ex-goalkeeper of ours ever wanted to beg for forgiveness, perhaps in a church, he could do so at confession, and then the priest could say, "You are forgiven, and all your sins have been healed."
Oh dear!
See what I did there?
That's even worse than me not remembering a goalkeeper. My goalkeepers are normally my best subject. I can't believe I've been done by a goalkeeper. Anyway, who we got Saturday?
We've got Peterborough.
Actually, who we got Sunday?
We've got them on Sunday this week. It's a live Sky game. They visit Kingsmeadow. 2:30 kick-off for reasons. I don't know why it's 2:30. Actually, there's no reason why it couldn't just be 3 o'clock, could it? Because there's no Premier League games for them to worry about. Oh, anyway, I'm sure there's a reason for it.
That will confuse people as well. People turning up at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, they've got dentist appointments at that time as well. Normally, haven't they?
You won't miss much.
No, trust me, you wouldn't have done. Anyway, I will just say, I will guarantee that prior to kick-off, we will have a minute silence for Remembrance Sunday. But I would just like to register the fact that, in my opinion, that is very, very stupid, because the game is on Remembrance Sunday, and we'd have already had our 2-minute silence earlier that day. So quite why football feels the need to have its own one. I feel it cheapens the 2-minute silence we have, that all football clubs on the game closest to Remembrance Sunday, which for some of them is like October last week, they have to have a minute silence for it. It's for PR, it's for public relations, it's to make them look good. It's got no other reason. There's no meaning to it. Anyway, that's my little moan and rant over. I agree. After that little rant, you'll be glad, you'll be wanting to hear my rants about teams changing colours again. But anyway, Peterborough, let's just say they've gone backwards since August. You know, they won all 4 of their games in August. Won their first 4 games of the season. They've only won 3 since.
Yeah, form guide's really bad. I remember chatting to Xavier, who knows a few people. Well, I think he knows the chairman there at Peterborough. And he said to me at Oxford, he said, they blow hot and cold. They can go and win 4 games and go and lose 4 games. And he was spot on.
Yeah, very much bang on, in fact. So
yeah,
they did beat Shrewsbury last time out, though. They were the first team to beat Shrewsbury Town, but they've not won away since August, actually. So those 3 wins they've had since August have all been at home. They are still just outside the playoff places. So it's not a bad fixture for us, really, is it? It's a winnable game. At first, you think Peterborough, and you think team up there, team with big investment, but actually, it's not too bad a game for us.
No, it's not a game that I sort of go, oh, crikey, we'll do well to get anything. I think it's a winnable game. I think a lot of games are winnable games. Just depends how we approach it, really, doesn't it? But hopefully on TV and in front of the cameras, hopefully that will give us that little bit of an extra incentive to go out and get the win. It obviously all depends really whether we've got any forwards, because obviously Lyle, we're not too sure what happened with Lyle. I think Quezzy's still a little bit of away, which then leaves us with Cody. So I suppose we're banking on really Lyle being fit, but if not, then we probably are in for a bit of a tactical affair on Sunday.
Who do Peterborough have that worries you, aside from Jack Marriott, former Luton Town striker, who's hit double figures already this season?
Not many. They've got a decent side. I think they tend to do very well picking up. Peterborough have got a very good model, haven't they? So they pick up a lot of non-league strikers. So they picked up the striker from Dover, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Miller?
That's been one. I'm not too sure if he's played too much, but he had a 6-game ban, didn't he, when he first started the season? So, but they do very well and pick up very good players. So I think Peterborough very much, you know how they're going to play very much. But yeah, Jack Marriott does stand out already. He used to play. He is an ex-Luton player, isn't he? This is why you're picking him out again, isn't it?
Yeah, didn't he score against us once when we lost there? We lost 2-0 there. The season we got promoted, didn't we? So
yeah, it rings a bell. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's their main player, but I know obviously why you're picking him, because he's got the Luton link.
Everyone loves a Luton link. So anyway, prediction then?
0-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 0 as well, because we won't attack. We will defend. They will defend, and Sky will be going for the love of you know what. We're never coming back here for a game.
Sky normally get good games. You can see why Sky come down to us, because we have had some decent games on the box, haven't we? This will not be one of them.
They do like us, the TV companies. We've been on TV pretty much every season, I think, except for ever since we got into the FA Cup first round against Wickham. Remember when we were on TV for that? We've been on TV every season since then, I think, without fail, in fact.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the last time we were on TV was Oxford away, when Darius scored his 25-yard.
Yes, I believe you're right. I'm just trying to think, actually, the first season of the conference, what did we do in the FA Cup that year? Was that
First
Millwall?
season of the conference.
No, that wasn't. That was conference. Yes,
yeah,
it was.
Millwall,
It was Millwall. So I don't think we were on TV that year because there was no TV contract. So for the non-league at the time. But other than that, I think we've been on TV.
We've done well.
Yeah, we've done very, very well. Anyway.
Yeah, until Sunday, when they won't come back ever again.
They'll never come back ever again. Anyway, what other game will you be looking out for on Saturday in League One?
Well, I saw your pick, as you said, and I couldn't look at it. There's no other game. It's quite a boring list of fixtures.
There is. I must admit, I was in two minds. So the game we've picked is obviously... I say obviously, because as if the listeners can read our minds. It's Gillingham versus Bury. So that is a bottom six encounter, and that is what we are at the moment. But there was, I'm just going to go back to the fixtures, because there was another game that was, if not particularly, was intriguing at least to me. And that was Blackpool versus Portsmouth. Only because Blackpool have really fallen away, and both of them got knocked out of the FA Cup by Boreham Wood and, Luton Town last week. So at least that's fairly interesting to see which way that one will go. But other than that, no, it's a rubbish fixture list. Rubbish.
Yeah, a really rubbish set. A rubbish set of games, really. So Gillingham Bury is, I suppose we want to draw, really, don't we? I'm thinking along that lines.
Yeah, and really, that just shows you how bad the fixtures are of Gillingham versus Bury. If it wasn't for the fact that we're in a relegation battle at the minute, Stu, there'd be no games. There'd be no games this week.
Yeah, there'd be no interest at all, would it?
No interest in it, so no one's going to be staying up till whatever time the highlights are on Channel 5 on Saturday. But anyway, updates from Kings Meadow it is, isn't it? Yeah, we'll be doing updates if you're not watching it on TV. Yeah, Twitter at 9wireless Podcast, you know the drill. Probably talked for too long now, so let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up and say thank you very much for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe on whichever channel you'll be listening to, whether it be iTunes or YouTube. If you're listening through our website, of course, which many of you do, an increasing number, in fact, every week, according to the statistics, then please feel free to comment underneath and let us know what you think. Aside from that, that is it. Thank you very much, Stu, for joining me.
No problem.
Thank you guys for listening, and please join us next week when we will be speaking to Lewis Hamilton about planes, tax gains and automobiles. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.
They'll sing about girls and hearts, sneaking in the bars, drunk face fights and battle scars.